Good afternoon and welcome to St. Newsfile. I'm James Dunn. We have a busy day ahead on St. Newsfile today. Simone Charret will have a look at sports later on, but first, let's say hello to Cole Fortner with the weather.
Well, James, it is a very nice and beautiful day out today. We have hit our high today of 14 degrees. Looking at what we had last year of 17 degrees, that's not too bad, only 3-degree difference. Our record high for today came back 8 years ago in 2012, and it was a bit warmer than today, but not too bad. Our overall record low happened back in 1972 at -9, so a little bit of snow on the ground more than likely for then. Looking at the month of April overall as a whole, it is a bit of a rainier month. We have been fortunate enough to not see much of it, but we might see some thunder showers later tonight. As the week goes on, we will be expecting some high temperatures and some sun.
Thanks, Cole. Now here's a look at today's top stories. After a couple weeks of speculation, the Calgary Stampede is officially cancelled for 2020. It marks the first time the event was cancelled since it became an annual tradition in 1923, even avoiding cancellation during the Great Depression, World War II, and the 2013 flood. The Stampede contributes about $540 million to the Alberta economy. Stampede President Dana Pierce says cancelling the Stampede is a big rarity.
The Calgary Stampede has been around for 108 years, through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and a devastating flood. I promise you, this does not mean the end of Stampede spirit this year or in the years to come.
The City of Edmonton also announced this morning that their annual fair, K-Days, has also been cancelled. With more spring-like temperatures and conditions here in Calgary, the struggle to stay home and practice social and physical distancing becomes a harder task. More Calgarians are trying to capitalize on the weather, but how are Calgarians doing at keeping a safe distance? Jaden Wozni has the details.
Who can resist the temptation of warm weather after weeks on end of isolation after what felt like an extra long winter? Mayor of Calgary, Naheed Nenshi, is telling the public that they should get outside and enjoy the fresh air, but to do so at a safe distance from others, also sharing the city's parks and paths.
You should go to the park in your own neighborhood. I'd prefer if everyone doesn't all go to Princess Island Park, for example. But when going to the park, you should stay at least 2 meters apart. You shouldn't touch anything. And when you get home, wash your hands before you do anything else.
Despite the good news, Mayor Nenshi also announced yesterday that if anyone in the city is breaking the social distancing laws, you could be dished a $1,200 fine. But will it stop Calgarians from gathering in large groups?
Honestly, I don't think it'll scare people until they, either get a warning or the ticket itself. I see lots of people out now anyways with the fact you're supposed to be social distancing.
With new laws in place, that should send a strong message to those heading outdoors. But should the city stiffen the fines or implement more rules?
I would definitely say probably not more than $1,200, but I definitely think a fine of some sort will for sure motivate people to.
Residents in Calgary will be sure to flock to the city's parks and pathways as the heat picks up this week. But now it's up to us as citizens to show we can keep a safe distance while enjoying the outdoors. For St. Newsfile, I'm Jaden Wozni.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced more funding for science and research towards fighting COVID-19, including vaccine development, clinical trials, and greater capacity for testing. The plan totals $1.1 billion. Trudeau says in order for the economy to reopen, Canada needs to expand testing capacity even further than the current 20,000 tests a day.
We're putting in place an additional $1.1 billion for a national medical and research strategy to address COVID-19. This plan has 3 pillars: research on vaccines and other treatments, support for clinical trials, and expanding national testing and modeling.
The latest COVID-19 numbers from Alberta's Chief Medical Health Officer are out. Here is the current situation. 319 cases were confirmed in the last 24 hours. The total number of cases in Alberta is 3,720, along with 2 additional deaths, bringing the total to 68. The number of recovered cases also went up to a total of 1,357, about 36% of all confirmed cases in Alberta. Dr. Dina Hinshaw says the province has something new up its sleeve to track the spread of the virus.
In fact, I'm excited to say that we are in the final testing phase of a new contact tracing app. This mobile app will be completely voluntary and will speed up the contact tracing that health officials undertake when someone tests positive for the virus.
Throughout this COVID-19 pandemic, the frontline workers, like the doctors and nurses, are at the same risk as anyone else, if not even more. This, however, is not good for the maternity wards at the hospitals, as newborn babies are vulnerable to just about everything, and some wards here in Calgary have had staff infected. Nathan Anderson reports on just how at risk the newborn babies are throughout all of this.
4 maternity wards here in Calgary are said to be some of the cleanest and well kept to make sure that babies coming into this world do not contract any diseases when their immune systems haven't had time to develop yet.
Yeah, I'm nervous because I have a 4-month-old, so obviously their immune system isn't very, they don't have much of one.
With COVID-19, this has put more babies at risk, especially since there were 8 nursing staff who tested positive for the virus at the Foothills Medical Center. That has forced Alberta Health Services to move nurses from the South Health campus as well as the High River Hospital to places like Foothills Hospital to make up for that lost staffing.
It is very detrimental because the staffing levels have gone down almost 20% of people who are off, so a shortage of staff, and there's overtime calls, and casuals can't keep up, and it's just very hectic in there right now.
Parents of these newborn babies are worried about what could happen to their children. Brittany Nicholas says she knows the risks and is doing what she can to prevent her child from getting sick.
Just because they have not as strong of an immune system built up as the other kids, and so if he were to get it, then he could be hospitalized from it, and then it can be worse for younger kids and older people. So
it's important to note that 80% of people who contract COVID-19 recover without any medical intervention. Even though it can be more detrimental to these newborns if they contract the virus, the best way to keep them safe is just like anyone else, by washing and sanitizing your hands and practicing social distancing. For State Newsfile, I'm Nathan Anderson.
The COVID-19 pandemic has rattled the travel and tourism industry. Tens of thousands of workers have been laid off, and lots of planned vacations have now been canceled. When the pandemic effectively closed all borders, travelers had to cancel flights, hotels, and even car rentals, all without a refund from any company. But travelers are still getting vouchers good for the next 2 years for what they canceled. Travel lady Leslie Kiter says it's tough to hear from the angry customers.
We're dealing with a lot of unhappy people who don't like this situation, who would prefer to have a full refund, especially when you get older clientele. I've got people who are in their 70s and they say, I don't know if I'll be able to travel next year or the year after.
Kiter also says she expects the travel industry to bounce back in a big way. She says people like to get out and travel, and once isolation is over, travelers will come back. With the COVID-19 pandemic halting many businesses, restaurants are still trying to keep business going and making changes to abide Alberta Health's guidelines. Canada Takeout started an initiative to set Wednesday's takeout days for customers. McKenna Jameson reports on how restaurants are doing with the takeout transition.
Many restaurants in Calgary had to transition to a takeout and delivery method when serving customers. To protect workers and customers, they encourage takeout when dining at your favorite places. Canada Takeout started an initiative where they made Wednesdays a designated takeout day so you can support local restaurants with their business. Mark Nickerson is an assistant general manager at Buffalo Wild Wings, and he says the Wednesday takeouts help the restaurant industry a lot.
Yeah, I believe it is, especially with the COVID pandemic right now. A lot of small businesses are really hurting, especially the restaurant industry. Tons and tons of layoffs. So I think any initiative that anybody could give for people to just get out there, do takeout delivery, a little more sense of normalcy for everybody is a great thing.
Restaurants have taken many safety measures in kitchens and in the restaurant to make sure there is no contamination between workers, delivery people, and customers. The initiative had its first day yesterday, and lots of food companies had a huge influx of sales that day, giving restaurants more hope during the pandemic.
Since it just did start yesterday, our first day, yes, we did actually. Probably, I think about 5 to 10% over last week's sales. So that's great. People are obviously realizing what's going on. Word's getting out through social media, etc. So it's great.
Lots of sales were observed all over Canada, and reporting that restaurants had a sale increase of 20 to 60%. The hashtag Takeout Day has been trending all over Canada, and that also has been a factor in the spread of encouraging others to order takeout from local restaurants in your city. Many restaurants are closed, but those that remain open say that they like the Wednesday takeout days as it prepares them for future sales. For St. Newsfile, I'm McKenna Jameson.
April 22nd marked a special anniversary for Earth Day, but the pandemic has changed the way we commemorate it. The environmental movements made prevalent during Earth Day were still made known despite the need to make them indoors. Dawson Ends has more.
Earth Day is recognized internationally, but this spring saw its 50th anniversary spotlight reduced by the novel coronavirus. Instead of people spending the day outside, street blocks looked a lot more like this. Still, some managed to make time to be out in small groups. There are benefits to the lack of people outdoors, however.
The officials are speculating that bears are going to have a lot better of a spring season this year, for example, because people aren't out in their turf.
The pandemic has made cuts in pollution due to the quarantines put in place around the world, keeping vehicle travel rates low.
With less vehicles on the road right now, there's also a lot less wildlife vehicle collisions, which is obviously good for animals and good for people.
While Calgary itself is just starting to enter spring after a prolonged season of snow, parts of the city still made time to talk about the efforts of environmental regrowth. City Hall posted a reminder of Calgary's efforts to go green, and other initiatives have been put forward to help people stuck indoors get a bit closer to nature in the meantime.
We have some virtual hikes online. So over the last couple of years, we've been taking Google Trekker, which is like Google Street View, but on a backpack mounted camera, across some of our trails. On conservation sites across the country. So if people are interested in doing a virtual hike, they can check out our website.
There's a really cool initiative happening right now, the City Nature Challenge, April 24th to April 27th. And you can download the iNaturalist app and look at nature in your own backyard for the next 3 days. And whatever you upload will be verified, and then it's going to be used for scientific information for researchers. And they've been doing this for a number of years now.
You know, our lives might be on hold, but that doesn't mean the world outside our windows isn't.
For St. Newsfile, I'm Dawson Ends.
Those are today's top stories. We'll have your full weather forecast just after the break, as well as our final sports segment of the season, and some entertainment news later on. Stay with us.
I had it so good. I had my own car, great grades, everything in my life was going great, till I ruined it all. Little did I know, this would be my greatest mistake. Drunk driving. Lawyer fees, disappointed parents, lost car. If only I listened.
Hey, you aren't good to drive home.
Friends don't let friends drink and drive.
Come and learn the breaking world of broadcast news. Find your passion to investigate, write, shoot, edit, and deliver the stories of the day. SAIT's broadcast news program teaches you everything you need to know for a career in radio and television. Become the next great anchor, reporter, or personality using industry standard technology alongside qualified instructors with years of experience. This is Broadcast News. Come and dare to be on air.
Catch Thomas Rhett, Kesha, Train, and many more artists as they perform for the Project Cure Foundation. The livestream will be raising funds for hospitals and frontline workers. Join Tommy Wheeldon Jr. and players from the Cavalry FC as they answer questions about last season and thoughts for 2020 on what would have been their home opener. Join Paramount Pictures, Lionsgate, and Focus Movies as they host weekly movie events on their YouTube channels each week during quarantine. This week features include Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan, Dirty Dancing, and My Summer of Love. Many wineries are hosting virtual wine tours, go to the website of your favorite winery and see if you can check out behind the scenes. Fancy a visit to the Louvre but didn't want to fly to Paris and deal with a bunch of people? Well, now you can. Go to the Louvre website for virtual tours. And lastly, go to YouTube and rewatch all of your favorite SAIT Newsfile moments. Welcome back to SAIT Newsfile. Let's jump right in with the western portion of the country. Most cities are seeing some mid to high teen temperatures, which will continue as the week goes on. Edmonton is currently the sunniest spot as they sit at 15 degrees. Some places are expecting some thunder showers tonight, mainly Saskatchewan and Manitoba, as some high and low pressure systems move in from the United States. Moving over to the eastern portion of the country, there is a high pressure system just east of Toronto moving towards Ottawa and Montreal. Montreal currently being our highest and sunniest spot in the eastern portion of the country, which is a lot nicer than Halifax and St. John's can say, as they are both experiencing some light rain, which might turn into some flurries as the rest of the day continues. Looking on into the rest of the week for these cities, they can and will expect some low teen temperatures. Now let's take a look at the resorts. If you could travel, it's not a bad day all around. It's an absolute scorcher in the southwestern part of the states today, and it will remain that way for the next week. Lots of water will be needed. Speaking of water, an umbrella might be needed in Barbados tonight and Orlando throughout the week. Well, I'm not sure I'd be able to withstand some of those blazing temperatures that are being and will be being seen by Palm Springs and Las Vegas as the week continues. That's why I'm very glad we are not seeing those temperatures here in Calgary currently. Taking a look at the province, most cities currently are or will be expecting some rain as the day continues, which may develop into thunder showers as it continues into the night. Our current low spot in the province is Banff, as they are the only spot not currently in double-digit temperatures. On the other side of the province is our warmer spot, which is Medicine Hat. As the week continues, most of these cities will be expecting some mid to high teens and some nice, beautiful, warm, sunny weather. Now let's take a look at the 5-day forecast. Well, like I mentioned earlier, Calgary is expecting some thunder showers tonight, which could start at any moment as rain clouds are starting to move in. As we look at the rest of the week, we will be expecting some mid to high teens and some warm, sunny weather, which was consistent to today and the past couple of days. And Saturday will be our warmest day of the week, coming in at about 16 degrees as our expected high. Coming up after the break, Simone Charret will have sports. Stay tuned.
How does this dog look to you? Or this kitten? They're happy, and yet they're homeless, staying with another family until they find you. ARF has helped give over 2,500 animals forever homes. Why not be the net? Help us help them. You rescue, I rescue. ARF, caring for those in need.
Come and learn the breaking world of broadcast news. Find your passion to investigate, write, shoot, edit, and deliver the stories of the day. SAIT's broadcast news program teaches you everything you need to know for a career in radio and television. Become the next great anchor, reporter, or personality using industry standard technology alongside qualified instructors with years of experience. This is broadcast news. Come and dare to be on air.
Welcome back to SAIT Newsfile. Our very own SAIT Trojans could not finish off their season, but it does not mean it was not successful. Many of our teams were headed for the finals when the rug got pulled from under them. As Connor Gunn reports, Trojans management is looking ahead to the next season.
Trojan sports were cut short, but let's not forget the success they had all year. The men's basketball team won its 4th straight ACAC championship and had a good chance heading into nationals.
The good news is we're hosting next year's men's basketball national championship, so we're pretty excited for that now that we've kind of turned the page to 2020-21.
The men's hockey team was heading into the semifinal matchup against arch rival the Nate Ooks, and that was cut short.
Men's hockey obviously made the playoffs but didn't get to play their semifinal series against Nate, so we're kind of left to wonder there's that SAIT-Nate rivalry, so that probably would have been a pretty good intense series, but we were kind of shortchanged of that because of this deal.
Our men's curling team returned after a lengthy hiatus and dominated the field by winning the ACAC title. From women's hockey to men's cross-country running, Mark believes that each and every Trojans team should be proud of what it accomplished. Mark says he sends his heart out to those who couldn't complete their season.
If I had to sum up the year, incomplete, right? Like a lot of what ifs and probably a lot of sleepless nights for some of these athletes wondering, what would have happened if they were able to finish their season.
Mark says the main takeaway from how the season turned out is how we have to appreciate the little things and the little wins. In conclusion of this year's Trojans athletics, we are left to wonder what's ahead for next year. It's a sad way to end a successful season, but it's not forgotten, and it leaves us looking into the future. For the final time on State Newsfile, I'm Connor Gunn.
The Calgary Hitmen selected 10 players, including 5 forwards and 1 goalie, in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft held online yesterday. The Hitmen drafted Oliver Tolk with their first pick, who is ranked 12th overall. The 5'7", 160-pound center led the Delta Hockey Academy last season by scoring 69 points thanks to his 27 goals and 42 assists. As summer moves in, varsity athletes are getting concerned if they will have a season to play this coming August. The University of Calgary field hockey team is starting to question the ability of gameplay if the pandemic were to continue past June. As leagues debate postponing the start of season, many University of Calgary players are concerned. If they don't get to play this summer, they're saying there will be no way of playing in our frigid winters.
We can't switch it to the winter semester because a lot of the sports, like if they were a fall semester season, they could switch into a winter season, but because it gets so snowy and cold in Calgary, we physically couldn't do that.
The Dinos remain optimistic and say they hope they'll get back on the turf very soon. For now, they remain at home trying to stay healthy, positive, and fit. The National Football League is starting its 2020 draft tonight. All eyes will be on the Patriots and the Buccaneers following Tom Brady's trade and Rob Gronkowski's recent announcement that he's coming back into action following his short-lived retirement last season. You can watch the event tonight starting at 6:30. Speaking of Tom Brady, he will be joining Peyton Manning not in a football field but this time on a golf course. The two quarterbacks will play with Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson on a 2-on-2 rematch to raise money to fund relief efforts for the COVID-19 pandemic. The match, Champions for Charity, will be televised on TNT with social media and digital content leading up to the event. Live golf was last seen on television on March 12 when the PGA Tour first decided not to have fans at the TPC Sawgrass, then began cancelling or postponing all tournaments across each of its tours. And that's a look at sports. James?
Thanks, Simone. 2 Calgary filmmakers put out a call to filmmakers around the world in mid-March to put their self-isolation to creative use. A month later, the Quarantine International Film Festival is up and running on YouTube after receiving over 6,000 submissions. For this week's entertainment update, Hannah Lapine joins us live. Hannah, can you tell us more about the QIFF and just how it operates?
Well, James, the couple started the festival in their tiny Beltline apartment after they fell out of work due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The couple didn't know that the festival was sure to blow up into an international event.
Oh my god, okay, I'll do it. Okay. Take 17.
Spencer Strykard and Siobhan Cooney initially announced the film festival once they realized a lot of people would be at home with free time. Within the first day, the couple had submissions from all over the globe.
We got submissions from 54 countries in our first round, so that was from everywhere from Argentina, Japan, the US, the UK. There was a submission from Israel that actually made it into our top 40. There was like South Africa, Kenya, Australia. It was wild.
The couple said they saw films that represented all sorts of different hobbies, skills, and cultures. Entries came from filmmakers of all skill level, from first-time producers to Emmy Award-winning cinematographers. The two said they were blown away by just how creative people were in a quarantine-like setting.
I think what it showed too with like where we're at and with technological advancements, you don't need necessarily a big expensive camera to make something look good. You can do a lot with your iPhone and post-production, and I think that's something that we've definitely learned out of this too, is like, yeah, money doesn't necessarily make a project good.
The festival is accepting submissions for their second edition now until May 20th. Films entered will have to be based on a single prompt that filmmakers have to focus on. Additionally, the film must be shot in one room or one location. Now is the best time to get creative at home, and I can see how this project has been such a success. James, are you staying creative in quarantine?
Well, Hannah, I'm currently on my 4th playthrough of Red Dead Redemption 2. Thanks for the report. Still ahead on State Newsfile, we'll look back on what made this year so special. Stay tuned.
I had it so good. I had my own car, great grades, everything in my life was going great till I ruined it all. Little did I know, this would be my greatest mistake. Drunk driving. Lawyer fees, disappointed parents, lost car. If only I listened.
Hey, you aren't good to drive home.
Friends don't let friends drink and drive.
Come and learn the breaking world of broadcast news. Find your passion to investigate, write, shoot, edit, and deliver the stories of the day. SAIT's broadcast news program teaches you everything you need to know for a career in radio and television. Become the next great anchor, reporter, or personality using industry standard technology alongside qualified instructors with years of experience. This is Broadcast News. Come and dare to be on air.
597 days ago, a group of students began a journey at SAIT. 172 assignments and tests later, that group of 24 is set to sail off into the sunset. The next wave of broadcast news students will now enter the world ready for hopefully everything that comes their way. Ryder McKay reports on the journey for those 24 students and the people who helped get them to where they are today.
It's not where you start, but rather where you finish. Today marks the final Newsfile show for the 2020 broadcast news students at SAIT. Although there will be no final gatherings or in-person goodbyes and hugs, the group of 24 students is prepared for the unique time our world is currently in. Class comedian Sean Marks has enjoyed his time, and although not a Disney storybook ending, it's been a magic experience.
Beyond anything I ever could have expected. I've made some lifelong friends, met some incredible people. My teachers have been just outstanding, just some of the coolest people I've ever met in my whole life.
Lead instructor for the group, Lisa McDonald, or perhaps Lisa Mack, as the SAIT World calls her, says it was a unique group and a group she really liked.
One of the things that's made this group unique is the fact that all of you have been so supportive of one another, and that's one of the reasons that all of you are graduating together.
One of the class's best, Austin Lee, has enjoyed all of it, but wishes the class could have a proper goodbye.
It's pretty sad, like it would be nice to be able to have a proper goodbye with some of my classmates. We've grown pretty tight over the years, and we've learned a lot together. So it's been a great ride, that's for sure.
I think what I'll remember most about this group is just the kind of kindness that you've shown to each other. Every year, a very different dynamic with the students, and sometimes it can get really competitive, or people can just get mean. I'm really pleased to see that in this group, people just really were not doing that.
As the last bit of sand runs out on the 2020 BN hourglass and the clock completely runs out, no matter where you go, the places you will be and the people you will see, we will always have this. For one last time, for SAIT Newsfile, I'm Ryder McKay.
Thank you for joining us on our final edition of SAIT Newsfile. Now you're up to date on the world at large. This isn't goodbye, this is just see you later.